It's Tuesday evening and it's just after 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in Southeast London in Bromley, and I will be joined by my colleague Gregory probably in about 15 minutes. He's on his way. So welcome to the show, listeners. The aim of the show, the name of the show is Spiritual Discussion Program, and the aim of this show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by abushin. And we have a new topic every week. Yes? Oh. Yes, can you hear me? Hello, listeners. This is Saad again. Hopefully you can hear me. There may have been an echo. I think we've resolved it now. Apologies for that. So yes, just to remind you, this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by abushin. And the topic, we have a new topic every week. The topic we are discussing tonight is spiritual enlightenment. You are welcome to join in the discussion with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Just to let you know, listeners, some people may be having difficulty or to listen to us on our regular website, blessradio1.com. If that is the case, you can listen to us on zeno.fm/blessradio1. I'm going to spell that. That's Zeno. That's www.zeno.fm/blessradio1. So you should be able to listen on that website. I'm going to begin with, and apologies for that, listeners. Seem to be having some issues with our regular website, but you can definitely I'll repeat that again. It is www.zeno.fm/blessradio1.com. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by abushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, abushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with the 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, Gregory will be joining us a bit later on. He's on his way. So in the meantime, I will continue with the show. And just to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is spiritual enlightenment. And you're welcome to join us with any question or comments. The number to contact us, our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 7939 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. So the topic, as I mentioned, is spiritual enlightenment. And as usual, I looked in the dictionary, the meaning of the word, the two words there, spiritual and enlightenment. The word spiritual, it says in the dictionary, relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. And there's another definition which says, for spiritual, relating to religion or religious belief. So if I look at the first one, which says relating, spiritual meaning relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. I would say that is the most best definition here. And yes, it basically, spiritual, although spiritual is not only to do with human beings or the human spirit, it is everything that is spiritual. So, and human beings are the only, not the only spiritual beings. But I don't want to digress too far there. You know, the human spiritual is a big enough field to look at. But that, I would say, is quite correct. And relating to non-material things, you could say it another way. Spiritual relates to non-material things. The second part of the definition was relating to religion or religious belief. Well, many people say they are spiritual, but they're not religious or follow a religion. So you can see from that it doesn't have to relate. You don't have to, if you accept that definition, obviously, then you don't have to follow a religion or have a religious belief to be a spiritual person. So one might ask, what exactly does spiritual mean then? Do you have to follow a spiritual teaching? Or no, you don't have to. You can be without a spiritual teaching. Well, I will say, if you just take spiritual as a human being, relating to human beings, then yes, there are human beings who believe or follow teaching, and there are human beings who do not follow. They're still spiritual in the sense that's what human being is, a spiritual being. So that's independent, you can say, of following a teaching or a belief. So hope that's helpful. And now I want to move on to the second part of the title tonight, or the topic tonight is spiritual enlightenment. So the second part is, or the word is, enlightenment. And again, I looked that up in the dictionary, and enlightenment, it says the action of enlightening, or the state of being enlightened. So then I thought, let me check up what does enlightening or enlightened mean. And enlightening means give someone greater knowledge or an understanding about a subject or situation. Another word, another definition, or another way to put it is shed light on, and then here it says an object, shed light on. So that's enlightening. So enlightenment means, you can say, having an understanding, I think it's simple, or a knowledge on spiritual matters, if you're talking about spiritual enlightenment. Now, the way, how do we just had a brief definition of spiritual enlightenment there from the dictionary, you can say. Now, what is, you could say, is that definition enough for us to discuss with, or do we need to expand it more? I would say let's stay with this, what is in the dictionary given here. There's always a more comprehensive definition in reality, because what I will say is most of us, we see things from our own point of view, which is in most cases earthly. And that is only a part of the picture. Even though we said already that spiritual is non-material, but still somehow we still see things from the earthly side rather than the spiritual side. So that's what we have to discover, let me say. And that, you can say, is part of spiritual enlightenment. It's our journey to become. Now, how do we, let's say, find spiritual enlightenment? As I mentioned earlier, there are people who follow a belief, a teaching, some scriptures, and of course, what I will say is, in these scriptures, there are valuable truths which do bring spiritual enlightenment, but we know there's between the different scriptures there are differences, and even in one part they say saying one thing, and another part it says something else, which you can't really know for sure, it seems. Is that true or not true? Not even, I will say, contradiction, but one addresses an aspect of life, another aspect of life. and it's very hard to determine, if we can, because people say, can I follow one or can I follow both, or do I ignore both? You might wonder what is quite a dilemma. This journey of spiritual enlightenment becomes very, yes, if you are brought up in one faith, you follow, most of those such people would follow just that faith, even if they become aware of something else. But that, I would say, is like a herd mentality, you're just following what you're told, almost like, I would say, a robot, without really reflecting. And then also, when we are growing up, we do ask questions about ourselves. Who are we? Where do we come from? I just know now that Gregory is able to join us, so I'm going to find him now. So if you just hold on, listeners, I'm going to put Gregory online. Just to tell you, while we're waiting for Gregory to join us, that I'm in Southeast London in Bromley, and the weather here has been quite mild, and yes, I would say quite mild. Gregory, are you here now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, welcome to the show, Gregory. Just remind us, Gregory, are you in Brussels today, and how's the weather? How's the weather there?
I'm not in Brussels. I'm in Cologne. Weather is just like Brussels.
Okay, the same like Brussels. So here it was, I would say, mild, and obviously now it's dark, but it was, yeah. So is that similar to there? The weather, was it quite mild?
Yeah, mild, yeah.
Good. Okay. Gregory, as usual, I started the show by looking at the topic we're discussing tonight is spiritual entitlement. And as usual, I looked in the dictionary, and I went through the definition there. So I've covered that for now. And so now you're here. Welcome to the show. And I can start with my question with you now. So
what did you say the title of the show is again?
Spiritual enlightenment.
Enlightenment, not entitlement.
Oh, no, not entitlement. No. It's spiritual enlightenment. So hopefully that's not a surprise. But so I went through the definition of spiritual, and I went through the definition of enlightenment. I've done that. I've been through that. Just to relate it to you, Gregory, just to bring you up to speed there. Spiritual, I found in the dictionary, it says relating or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. And there was another definition, relating to religion or religious belief. And then enlightenment, it says the action of enlightening or state of being enlightened. And so I looked up that, enlightening, and that is to give greater knowledge and understanding about a subject or situation. Or another way to put it, shed light on an object, it says, but it can be anything, of course, shed light on. So I think they're quite good definition there. What I wanted to, Gregory, I just wanted to go to next is, it's like you come across questions in life, who am I, or where do I come from, and then let's say many people are brought up in a particular faith or belief, and they start following that. So, and they accept that, and then let's say when they get older, or they come across traveling or meet other people, they come to realize, oh, there's other things other people believe or are aware of. And then sometimes you think, okay, that's not what I know or what I've come across. So this journey, Gregory, of spiritual enlightenment, are we meant to question, with those questions, who are we, or where do I come from? Are we meant to question that, or are we meant to learn through scriptures and, or some other way?
Well, the topic itself, it says spiritual enlightenment, already gives clarity. For that which is spiritual, strictly speaking, is that which is beyond what many will call the earthly, that which is beyond the earthly manifestations as we know it. Means that here we have earthly manifestations. When that which is spiritual is talked about, one wishes to understand what the motive of these earthly manifestations are. It is that seeking to be aware. Awareness is some form of enlightenment, longs for and questions himself and others, and also uses that which is most natural to him, that is his innate abilities. That particular personality is more or less in a longing state, wishing to know more than meets the eye. For that which is spiritual is beyond the earthly conceptions. Whereas with the earthly conceptions, one is tied to that which is earthly. But that which is the motive behind earthly conceptions, many do not know. So you'll find that in some cases, so-called faith, that is the form of knowledge which had been handed down but not thoroughly examined, are just left like that. But each person must question, must examine that which has been passed on to him or her. For if you do not examine that which has been passed on to you, how would you know it's of benefit or not of benefit?
Thank you for that, Gregory. So what you're pointing to is really we are meant to be, as you say, examining as an individual rather than following a teaching or a scripture, like I mentioned. So we are like, well, if we say we are at school, yes, we are all taught same lessons and so on, but each person develops themselves. So is that the same with the spiritual, Gregory? Even if we come across some teaching and something, we are supposed to develop in ourselves with it?
The concept of a school is good. However, we know that when things refer to that of the earthly body, or that of earthly existence, food and drink are required for the body to continue, for its sustenance. And therefore, you wouldn't say you go to school to learn how to eat. When it refers to that of the personality which is non-earthly, then how does it survive? What nourishes it? Of course, there is this constant longing, which longing drives many a personality for nobleness, to find out more than meets the eye, or, to put it bluntly, to find out or to understand or to be aware of the motives of what one has seen physically, what one has heard physically, what one has experienced through the five senses. Where does it lead? And one of the key questions that drives us to do this is, what am I doing here? Have I come to eat? After all, animals eat. Plants also require sustenance. So is there any difference between the plants, the other animals, and myself? There must be that which makes the human personality restless. Just as when one is hungry, one searches for food. It is that a similar longing when one needs to be spiritually aware. One needs to examine all that appertains to one's existence. To examine doesn't mean just to question and keep quiet and stay, but to open one's intuitive perceptions for all that appertains, what one sees. These are expressions. When one considers these external expressions, then the questions will be, these expressions, what sort of impressions do they trigger which touches the inner man? That has always been the longing.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Not long ago we talked about experiencing life, and so we learn from life experiences. You make mistakes, and then okay, in the future, I will go and do it again. Now that I've done it the way it should be done, I know it. So is it the similar thing with the spiritual things, Gregory? Because as you've said already, spiritual is non-earthly, and we don't see this non-earthly or spiritual. You said we have the five senses on this earth, which we obviously are aware of that, but with the spiritual, we don't have. You cannot say, "Oh, I see this. This is happening." Some event is happening, and why this is happening? That's the reason behind it. You don't see that, in front of you. Let's say. Now, so my point was, Gregory, some people, I'm sort of slightly going on a tangent, but I'll bring it all back in a minute. There was a TV show I just watched recently. It was visiting the islands, thousands of islands of Scotland, which are, let's say, quite remote and harsh in the environment, and so the people who live there, and there's a lot of beauty as well associated with that. And many people who live there, they consider themselves to be, they said religious or spiritual. And what it's like the nature, working with nature and that environment made them aware that, they're not on their own. It's not like they're not the highest. There's things that they, work with, they have to work with. So they're always having humility, let's say, and that awareness of something, there. And also the beauty, like I say, of the landscape and the nature, let's say, keeps them, uplifted and having peace. It's that sort of picture they have. So, and for them, this is a spiritual experience. So, Gregory, would that be an equivalent of a spiritual experience? Because many people, like I say, who are following scripture, they're saying, "Oh, this is the Almighty created this," and so on and so on. So they're getting, like I would say, a theoretical learning, and here people are more working with nature, and they're having that experience. Is that more spiritual, Gregory, than like the people who are learning from the scripture?
Only that which has an impact on one's intuition, only that one can refer to as being of spiritual. Else, it is not spiritual. Therefore, whether it be joy, or sorrow, or beauty, or ugliness, as long as these emotions have an effect or have an impact on one's intuitive perceptions, for the emotions just mentioned are expressions, and whenever an expression is mentioned, there must be a corresponding impression, albeit a corresponding intuitive impression. It is that intuitive impression that registers in the inner core, which is of spirit. For the language that the spirits comprehend is that of intuitive perception. So, the people you refer to, as long as whatever they have experienced externally touches on their intuitive impressions, then one may categorize that as a spiritual experience. In many cases, even in the so-called religious circumstances, most of the activities has no bearing at all on their intuitions. Very sadly, a lot of these are shallow, and because they do not have any imprints on the spirit, they are of little value. For when the time comes, when the earthly period granted for experience using the physical body, when that time expires, they themselves will then find that they have not gathered enough strong intuitive impressions with them for their maturity. In that case, if granted further opportunity, they may have to return to experience that which they themselves ignored during their time here on earth. So it is vitally important that each second, each activity should count in having a strong impression on the personality. For these are the experiences that the spirit takes away on its further journeys.
Thank you for that explanation, Gregory. Dear listeners, I want to let you know we are. This is Bless Radio, and it's the spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by abushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And tonight, listeners, this is the Blessed Radio, and the website we are normally broadcasting is blessedradio1.com. But however, I'm aware there's a technical issue there, and I have sent a message out to let you know this. But so there's an alternative website you can go to, which is www.zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. So that's www.zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. So hopefully you can join us on there. And the topic we're discussing tonight is spiritual enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is on our UK number. It is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And of course, we're always broadcasting on YouTube as well. So that's go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space live stream. And you can listen to a recording of the show on the next day. Again, on YouTube, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, space Grail Message, and then space the topic of the show, which tonight is spiritual enlightenment. Gregory, is it a necessity to be spiritually enlightened, or can just one live, as like just turning from man to a child, to a child, to a youth and into an adult, and just pass on? So what I'm trying to say, is it necessary to have to have spiritual enlightenment, or can one just live his earthly life?
When such questions come up, is it necessary to be spiritually enlightened? One may reframe it, is it necessary to be spiritually aware? Which is equivalent, is it necessary to be alive? For only he or her is alive who is able to use their intuitive perception in accordance with the laws of nature. So, if one says is living a spiritual life, and such a life, when examined, has no impact on one's intuition, then it is not spiritual life. It could be anything other than spiritual life. For that which is of spirit should, in all circumstances, have an impact on the physical body, and the physical body, which is used to gather experiences. These experiences are then sent back towards the spirit, and these experiences pass through one's intuitions. So, if one says one is living a spiritual life, then the channels for it are that of one's intuitive perceptions. Otherwise, they are not. It's only in their imagination. Many times one imagines one possesses that which they lack. And when the conditions present themselves, we find they lack what they have claimed to possess all along.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I mentioned earlier about people experiencing nature, like this TV show which is talking about the experiences of people on the Scottish islands, where it's a harsh environment and the people have to deal with, nature there. My next question is really about, to become spiritually enlightened, should one, cut oneself off like being in a cave or monastery to reflect about life? Because the modern life is so earthly and, there are all the stresses and so on coming from there. Should one live a simple life in this sort of, like I say, monastery or cave or something like that, to detach oneself from the earthly troubles?
One would say absolutely unnecessary. However, it depends on the person. So it is not right to lay down rules. This is what you must do. If one were to sever oneself from the hustle and bustle of everyday life and goes on to live such a life, and the impressions gathered there, those impressions, those experiences have no impact on the spirit, then it is utterly useless for spiritual maturity. So whether one being in the middle of the city or in the mountainside, in the forest, underneath the sea, or in the air, whatever experiences, whatever expressions one has been able to pick up, and in silent reflection, if it has an impact, an incisive impact on one's intuitions, which is then passed on to the spirit, then it becomes an experience. So you see, material where you are, although many a time life in the city has too many distractions. Distractions because man placed these distractions there. So it now depends on how each personality has disciplined himself or herself. So it has nothing to do with the mountain life or with those who move away from others and say, well, we prefer it here. Maybe because they are not strong enough to be able to interact with others by moving away and staying on their own so they can hear their voices in the forest or in the meadows. Spiritual life is different from how it has been mentioned so far. And it has to be stressed again and again. Whatever has a strong impression on the spirit is passed on to the spirit as an experience, which experience is now held by the spirit and will be used for maturity, whether it be here on earth or has left the earth. That experience is of value, be it pleasant or unpleasant. that registers becomes of value for the human spirit. Whatever has no value for the human spirit or distracts it from the necessary experiencing which has an impact on the spirit, whatever does not generate such things is completely earthly, is very transient.
Thank you for that, Gregory. It just shows that we must not segregate or, the concept of spiritual life from, let's say, the world we live in, and we are part of this world, and we have to experience this world wherever we are. It's not you separate yourself and think that that's by disconnecting with the world you can now, be with what you are meant to be. So thank you for that. I've received a question from a listener, Gregory. It says here, I have a friend who is Buddhist who told me that he has made an oath that he will keep on returning to earth till everyone is enlightened. Is that possible for him, or is he wasting much valuable time for his own spiritual maturity? So I'm going to read that again. This is a listener saying, I have a friend who is Buddhist and has told me that he has made an oath that he will keep on returning to the earth till everyone is enlightened. Is that possible for him, or is he wasting much valuable time for his own spiritual maturing? Yeah.
Like has been discussed in many occasions, you can only share of that which you yourself have. You cannot give to others what you yourself lack. So it may be best if such a personality first seeks what life is all about, what enlightenment, what awareness is. Awareness in the spiritual sense, which is of value, not awareness in the transient sense, which is earthly. Only that will be helpful for such a personality. Then he himself will find out that he has very little time for others, because he himself needs to be enlightened in accordance with the laws through which he came into creation, through which he also incarnated on earth. Such a wish, when it touches on the intuition, is binding. However, he can have control on himself. He cannot have control on others, because he himself has his free will to decide how he wishes to move. So do others have their free will, how they wish to proceed. And therefore it is wrong for he himself to tie his own progress to the progress of others, when he has not even done the homework of self-improvement. What will many understand as self-awareness of the capacities of the spirit, of the tasks of the human personality here on earth or hereafter? Only when they have a clear picture through vigorous striving. Only then can they dare to make statements. Even in that state, many will be very careful.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. I'm thinking also, observing the world, how we live. We are, as I mentioned, we are born and we are going to school and we learn things from school. Yes, let's say that's the earthly education. And then the people might be having faith and they might be having some scripture that they follow as well. And then, you meet your friends and other people and you learn from them, your environment, let's call it. And you learn certain values and culture from your surroundings, if I can say that way. So we are, Greg, what I'm saying, Gregory, we are conditioned by our environment and the, things around us. So then can one truly, make like a free decisions or reflections, let's say, without being influenced by this environment? It's like, if I give an example, like, let's say somebody who's only lived in their own country and never traveled, and he will only know what he sees in that environment, and then somebody who has traveled to other countries sees, oh, these people think differently, or they have a different system to what we have in our country. So I'm just equating that, Gregory, with the spiritual enlightenment. If you are only exposed, Gregory, to your environment, your surroundings in that country, let's call it like that way, and another person is having a totally different experience in their environment, another country, totally different country, are they, these two people, let's say, are they actually let's say getting, okay, maybe I can put it this way, are they getting a true, full, all-rounded spiritual experiences, or is that only a limited, narrow experience that they are having? And let me give an example of that, Gregory. So say somebody is, this is not comparing anything, but just an example. Say somebody is in India and they're born Hindu and they're just knowing the Hindu way, although that there's other people in Hindu who are not Hindu in India, I know, but let's assume that's what they know. And then there's another country, let's call it UK, just as a comparison, where there's all different people here, and we become more aware of all different things. So they're getting, let's say, more, you could say in quotes, wider experience. So my question, Gregory, is really about, according to where you are born, according to the environment you're in, are you having a limited experience of spiritual experiences, where in that conditioned by the environment, or that is not, it's independent of the environment, you're having an all-rounded experience, let me say that way?
Again, it's because the concept of the spiritual is still not understood. Whenever external expressions have an impact on the personality, which impact flows in via one's intuition, then that experience is of value That experience may be pleasurable. That experience may not be so pleasurable, but it has an impact, a strong impact on the spirit. Then one would say that is a spiritual experience, which is of value, that the personality will have to use here or hereafter. So whatever environment one is, it depends on how he or she opens himself to the challenges which keep rapping at the human soul. It depends on how he or she opens up to make use of this experience, or to allow these experiences, these external happenings, to have a strong emotional impact. Which strong emotional impact could be that of joy, could be that of sorrow, could be pleasurable, could not be so pleasurable, but that strong emotional impact is taken in. It doesn't mean that person has to be in the city or not in the city. As a matter of fact, which many can attest to, many who live in the so-called Western world or Western environment, or societies where there are no such drastic laws, many are still of their own free will to make decisions. And yet, what do you find? The experiences which they go on a day-to-day basis is shallow. Compassion does not well up in them. So it would be wrong to consider those who are not as exposed to be of poverty spiritually. In most cases, the reverse is the case. Each person, in making their decisions, in their previous standing, in their previous state, which state could be yesterday, could be the day before, it could be a year before, it could be as a child, it could also be even before the human spirit was born. It could be in a different earth life or in a different realm. A decision was made in accordance with the laws of creation. These decisions grow, they have consequences. It is the returns of these decisions that have or that pave the path through which the personality will have to follow as it moves along. So, the returns, depending on how the human personality stands at a particular time, these returns, which could have brought it down, but because that personality has improved himself, those returns will not do that. Only very simple symbolic acts can enable it to move forward and even enjoy what the returns will bring. At the same time, if it hasn't improved himself, the returns may at the same time come in and press it down. So man the human personality is in a state of sowing through its activities and at the same time reaping the returns of what it had sowed in the past. So things are in such a dynamic state that when the human personality had to incarnate in accordance with the laws, the path was then paved to a particular area on earth where through its previous activities that now becomes a place that it has sought to experience. It doesn't mean it stops there. It continues to sow and it continues to reap. Of course, the human personality in one instance of an earth life can have a physical body of flesh and blood in one country, and in due course, when that physical body has done the bit it could do, and due to the experiences that it had had and what it had sowed in the past, that physical body now gives way, the human personality departs and moves on, spends some times in the beyond for continuous experiences. And if granted the opportunity to come back, incarnate, could be in a different family, in a different country, in a different culture. With that, the sense of hatred of certain cultures, of certain personalities, of certain tribes vanishes. For each one must know that each personality has its own challenges. And just as they themselves are seeking for happiness, so do others.
Thank you so much, Gregory, for this explanation and answer there. It's clear that where you are is where you're meant to be, and the experience you're having is what you need. So we don't need to ask, let's say, many artificial questions about why, or if somebody's missing out here or not learning or not experiencing something. So it's where you are, you're meant to be. So it makes it so simple and clear, easy. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by abushin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is spiritual enlightenment. I'll say it again, spiritual enlightenment. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939641958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And just to make you aware, our regular website, blessradio1.com, that's the number 1.com. I think we're having technical issue on broadcasting the sound. So please tune into this alternative website, which is www.zeno.fm/blessradio1. I'll spell that, www.zeno.fm/blessradio and the number 1, Bless Radio 1. Also, you can listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, in space live stream. Also, you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, space Grail Message. And the topic of the show, which tonight is spiritual enlightenment. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Gregory, when you have, let's say, a question in life, you're dealing with something, situation, and you're wondering, how to go about, resolving it, let's say. And there are, let's say, many practices people do, and I just wondered if they help, you could say, in a spiritual way. And so one practice, Gregory, is meditation. So is that helpful in spiritual? I don't know if I'm hesitating to say enlightenment. I'm thinking, but it could be enlightenment. You could have a question, Gregory, about life, or it could be a situation you're dealing with. So let's consider it like a same thing. Is the practice of meditation, is that helpful in on resolving any questions, a life question, let's say?
There has always been discussions about meditation, but the question one must ask, what really is meditation? Whatever is reflected upon, which has no impact on one's intuition, is a complete waste of time and energy. So, if meditation, whatever form it is, has no impact on one's intuitive perceptions, which intuitive perceptions has deeper and stronger emotion, which impacts on the spirit, which is of value here and hereafter, then such is unhelpful. If such activities are referred to as meditation, then it's a waste of time. If, however, such reflections have an upbuilding state on the human personality, then it's of value and then it is useful. What is sad is to watch many a person, they ponder on so very many things. That means the experience or the activity does not have an impact on one's intuitive perceptions, but has a strong impact on the frontal brain. It means that experience is held within the intellect, dissected, turned inside out. And yet, that which is useful from such an experience is not observed. So, whatever man does, whether it's meditation, whatever they care to call it, or acrobatics, if it has no upbuilding on the human personality, which is of spirit, then it's of no value.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Now, how about prayer? Because that you do, let's say, in silence. Does that, that makes you calm down? So, does prayer help?
You yourself mentioned that the activity which you just mentioned as prayer helps to calm the person down. In the first instance, that's a good step. For in such excited state, many a person overlooks so very many things, and that's a big danger. So whatever experience will help to enable the personality to not make rash decisions is helpful. Above all, one should not wait for such experiences to hit the human personality. When that which is helpful, like many will say, you didn't play the lottery, and yet so much wealth came your path. You are so joyful. For many, prayer is not an option. They are involved in happiness. Only when that which is not so pleasant, that which is very sorrowful, hits the human personality, only then do they know that they are incapable of changing that which has hit them. Incapable because they had not improved themselves in such a way to have avoided that particular experience. Incapable because they themselves haven't opened up to understand that some experiences will have to hit the human personality for them to learn a specific lesson here or there, here or hereafter. Only much later will it then occur to them that, oh, that is what had happened. And whatever experiences they have been able to gather, they will then be able to use in many various occasions. But the man of today is only interested what he wishes to eat, what will make his life pleasurable for all times. Yet he himself or herself will not sow seeds that will enable such a life. Yet he himself will not ensure that he is not an island, that he lives amongst others who, like him, are searching for experiences of the spirit. The problem has always been, whether it be religion or not, that many are searching for material things, and they equate material things, or material success, to spiritual success. That which is spiritual may not be as helpful as many have thought. Helpful in the earthly sense. For when an experience hits you and is quite sorrowful, if the lessons are learned, then it becomes a helpful experience that the spirit needs in order to proceed. Whereas in many occasions, when all is smooth in the earthly way, spiritual exaction comes to an end. So many who turn to religion, who are seeking for material enlightenment, they now confuse that for spiritual enlightenment. And what happens? Many a highway person who realizes this scenario waits or sits and awaits many who are seeking for materials under the guise that they need that which is spiritual. And because of that, they are duped. That which is spiritual, which is of help and of value to the spirit, are the strong intuitive perceptions that have an impact on the spirit. For that's the language that it understands. That is the food and drink for the spirit. Whereas, on the other hand, that which is of the earthly is only food and drink for the earthly. So one should not think that when one has departed this earth, one is going to have access to physical food. What is needed is spiritual food. Which spiritual food is what the spirit needs through the experiences it has gathered for its ennoblement.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, Gregory, I was on mute, and I apologize for that. I've received a question from a listener, Gregory. It says, apparently, the more one seeks, the more one can be dragged down again. How does one best cope with these backward steps? Gregory, did you hear that? I'll just repeat it. Apparently, the more one seeks, the more one can be dragged down again. How does one best cope with these backward steps?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. The question is, apparently, the more one seeks, the more one can be dragged down. How does one best cope with these backward steps?
Whoever seeks diligently in accordance with the laws of creation, such will find the necessary experiences. The problem has always been when the experiences are not pleasant, many reject very quickly. That has always been the problem. The more one seeks, if it is seeking of the spirit, then in accordance with the laws of creation, of homogeneity, that personality will be advised, will be guided on to the paths where that which is of spiritual benefit will be found. Else, if one seeks intellectually, then you cannot find that which is spiritual. Like was stressed initially, some of these experiences, some of them may be pleasurable, some of them may not be that pleasurable. But man many times seeks that which only gives him pleasure, which makes him lazy, and therefore that which is spiritual slips him by.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I understand you have to leave us now.
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you for being with us. I know you have a commitment, so thank you for that. So yes, I will, listeners, I'm going to continue the rest of the show. We'll see you next week, Gregory. All the best. Take care. So listeners, as I said, we'll continue with the rest of the radio show. There is another question a listener has sent in, and I will do my best to respond to that. The question is, the listener saying, what is what the Buddhists call nirvana? Is this enlightenment? As I understand it, it seems to be a dissipation of the soul or spirit. What is the point of such a process if the end result is emerging into nothingness? So yes, my understanding of nirvana is that, yes, the soul or spirit, that's what we are as a human personality or being, as we go into the beyond and travel further, you could say up into heaven, the soul gets, you could say, absorbed into the whole, or so this merging into nothingness, I mean, we need to think logically about the process. So we are something, everything is of some sort of form, and yes, you can, how can I say, change form? Maybe that's not quite the right word, but forms can change, but the forms cannot disappear. They come together, and yes, you could say they can even be destroyed, but only into the elements, So a personality, let's call it consciousness, We human beings are, let's say, on a journey from starting as an unconscious spirit, seed, or germ, and through our life's experiences in the beyond and here on earth, and then coming back into the beyond, because our origin actually is not from this earth. The earth is not spiritual. We are spiritual, and we existed before the earth and the material world existed. So the origin of us is, let's say, it comes from heaven, if you can put it in simple words. So we started our journey as in heaven, in simple way, as an unconscious spirit, germ or seed. And as we have gained experiences, we become more conscious. You could call it also maturing, and so on. And so when we leave this earth, there will be still some consciousness, obviously, with us. That is, we're supposed to mature. So in theory, we're getting more mature. And then, according to what nirvana, or the concept of nirvana is that we end up, you could say, in heaven. You could say merging into this, could say, super consciousness, if I were to say that, but into nothing. But here it is understood to be nothingness. So obviously, that is completely illogical. We came from something, we must return to something. So nothingness just does not add up. And then what would be the purpose, you could say, of a life? You know, the people say, oh, rest in peace when you die. But again, that is a false understanding or concept. You're alive. The aim of life is to live. Yes, you die, you have an earthly death. That is you're dropping your body, which is not living in the first place. So that is not the end of your life. The spirit is the living being only. So that's not the end of our life. So when we pass on, as the word suggests, and we die, have an earthly death, is the spirit that continues to live, and it enters the beyond. And the aim is to become conscious, from unconscious to conscious. So as we head towards heaven, which is our goal, it is to become more conscious. So you might think, oh, we might our consciousness merges with other people's consciousness and so on, and becomes maybe a super consciousness. But let's say that that's even true. If it is true, that cannot mean nothingness, surely not. So that concept can't be correct. It's simply out of pure logic. And even if it went back to unconsciousness, it is still something, not nothing. So again, it doesn't make sense. So yes. So thank you for that question, listener. Now, just want to remind the listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by abushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And tonight, I believe we have a technical issue with our website, so not able to broadcast on, or you can't listen to us on blessradio1.com. So you can hear us on zeno.fm/blessradio1. I'll spell that out. www.zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. So you can listen to us there. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space live stream. And also you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, which is again on youtube.com. Type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space Grail Message, space the topic of the show, which tonight is spiritual enlightenment. If you want to join in the discussion with any question or comments, please contact us on our UK number. It is 07939641958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Now, I want to talk about, we human beings on this earth, this earth life, we focus on some things which we value or consider important, for example, family. and we make a lot of sacrifice for that, compromise our individual freedom. And we hear a lot, especially many mothers who say that we feel guilty when they have to try to do something for themselves and put themselves first in place of their children at certain points, and this guilt is that, and then that's how they lead their, they feel that guilt. It was recently in the news, I think, but about a famous singer Adele deciding that yes, she was married. She's married and she has a son and a husband, and she was always putting them first. And then she decided at one point, no, I must do something for me. And she, not that she's give up her son, but she divorced, put the process of divorcing her husband. Anyway, I'm using that as an example, that people have this perception that family life is most important. Now, where does that come from? It's like our world, or culture, that we accept it, that this is how life has to be. And then we suffer and think, is this really what we want, or is this what is right? And so I would like to answer this, is what the guilt that these mothers are feeling. Is it really a guilt, or is it a delusion? Well, when one knows that life is all about balance, how can, if that is really a value in life or law of life, that the life is about balance, which we always see, you cannot overeat, you cannot overdo this or overdo that, or undereat or underdo something, everything which is in a balance. So how can it be that the children must come first, or family must come first? It's clear that can't be. Simple logic will tell us these things, but somehow we allow ourselves to follow paths, which are so, you could say, like sheep, not thinking, but just following something. And why? Why do we do that? I guess we are in this habit. But for me, it shows that we must always weigh and examine everything at all times. Just because you do something yesterday, does it, or year for centuries, does it mean we do it again the next day? No. We must be alive, we must be sensing, as Gregory has been pointing out many times, we do have this intuition, which must be, so every experience must be sensed with the intuition, your gut feeling, many people call it. And yes, when we do apply it, then answers will come, clear answers will come. And so that guilty feeling that mothers have will very quickly be cleared away. At the end of the day, if you pass on, whether it's your doing or some other doing, life continues. So why we make these matters so putting ourselves on pressure, stress you can call it, for what purpose? Only to suffer. And life, cannot be, yes, there will be things which are challenging, but that is not suffering. And at the end of the day, it is not meant to be overwhelming. What we are given, it must, if there's a balance in life, it must be possible to handle it. And if we don't achieve something, does it mean we are failures? So I would say, as they say, do your best and strive for the best. But it's not a race that you have to do something within 10 minutes or something like that. Now, I want to go to, again, about scriptures that when we started the show, let's say people who look at scriptures or read the scriptures and are brought up on certain scriptures, and they accept them, follow them, probably, and try to understand them, but then certain things may not make sense, and you wonder, why is that really logical? I'm thinking of, for example, miracles. In the case of, in the Bible with Jesus, he was raising someone from the dead, or healing someone who was blind or had leprosy. I mean, we can't see anybody doing that in today's world. And yes, Jesus is supposed to be the Son of God with you could say some miraculous power. But is that logical still, what he did? Or is it something supernatural because of his divine origin? So, my question here is spiritual activity, or let's even call it divine activity, I'm diverting it a bit, is that logical? Is it supernatural? Okay. If something is supernatural, like a miracle, it means it can't be explained. Let's look up what is supernatural. In the dictionary it says, relating to or being above or beyond what is natural, unexplainable by natural law or phenomena, abnormal. So raising someone from the dead, healing someone who's blind, and leprosy does sound definitely abnormal and most unlikely to be explainable by natural law, because when you're dead, you're supposed to not be alive again or brought back again. At the end of the day, the death is meant to be the physical body being left behind, the spirit continues. So how can that be that that body is being brought back to life? So what I'll say there is, unless you know the actual process, what is happening in the miracles, it will be impossible to even know if this is real, if this actually happened, these miracles, so-called miracle, did they really happen, or it's something fiction. The good news I can tell you is when I go through the processes of these miracles, it will be clear that actually they do make sense. So, for example, when Jesus raised someone from the dead, the death is meant to be when the soul or the spirit leaves the physical body. So in this case, when Jesus was raising that person from the dead, the spirit had not yet left the body, and he called the person to awake. Basically, he was able to speak to that spirit, which is in the process of going to detach itself from the body, but it was able to call the spirit back into the body. It had not yet detached. Maybe it had been, if it had been 20 days, I know by that time people would be buried, or even 10 days, the person would be buried. But let's say it was not the case, then it would have been, let's say, pretty sure impossible, because at that time the spirit would have left the body. So that explains what appears to be a supernatural event that is not actually supernatural. You know, you hear about people with near-death experiences, where the person is seen during an operation, the person is unconscious, and yet the person's spirit is leaving the body, and he can see what is happening. And when he comes back to the body, patient can actually tell what was being done, and that gives a shock to the surgeon that, oh, I saw you doing this, and how he could see when he was supposed to be unconscious, because what was seeing was a spirit which was still connected to the body, so he could still see what was happening. So you can see that this miracle of Jesus bringing back the person who is so-called dead, it was asleep rather than death at that point. So similarly with somebody who's blind, again, it's incredible because you never see that in real life. How does can anybody bring anybody who's blind back, to see again? Well, Jesus was using his hands, touching the person, or holding out his hands. And what we don't realize is when we do that, radiation comes out of us and it reaches to the other person. And this would be, in this case, healing rays, and that blindness, yes, is something physical, but it can be touched by these radiation. And in this case, healing rays, so that blindness can be recovered. You could call it supernatural power in the sense that's not normal power that any person can usually do. But here, Jesus is using his divine origin and divine power, which obviously is greater than most human beings. So that can, although we human beings are also capable of such miraculous things too. So yes, basically through the focusing of our inner volition and prayer, you can say, healing can take place. And Jesus is able, through his word, and with his healing hands, able to send radiation to that person who's blind. And similarly, the same, you could say, applying to leprosy. So these are the miracles which sound illogical and supernatural, but actually they are not. So I have another thing about the scriptures, especially when we see that I won't bring any examples, but sometimes we see there are contradictions within the scriptures or between different scriptures, and we know that one contradicts the other, so it can't be that both can be correct. Only either one is correct or both of them are incorrect. And how can we deal with that when we don't know? We were not there to see the event. How can we say which is correct and which is not correct? Or maybe we cannot know. So I will say, first of all, everything is a process. Everything that happens in this world is a process. It is a natural process, logical process. So if now that I'm saying, you could say, may not be written in the scriptures this way, and so you could say, I'm coming from the outside to say that. Even so, if I'm saying that, the point is, yes, maybe you cannot find the answer from within that scripture, especially when you see a contradiction within the same scripture, and then we have maybe some, and then we come across some other scriptures which either contradict the first one or present something totally new, and which we cannot grasp which one is correct or incorrect. So my point is, everything has to be looked from a logical point of view, as and from some natural laws, that there is a way something happened. There is a beginning, there is an end of everything. I'm talking about, let's say, spiritual activity, right? And of course we know with the earthly activity as well. So if we start on that basis, and then the other thing is, we have been given an intuition with which we can really sense inwardly, also you could say logically, if something does make sense or it doesn't make sense. That intuition, it is it has been defined as knowing without thinking. It's like you don't even have to do any assessment and analysis. You already know inwardly this is true or not true, which is really, again, sounds a miraculous thing, and even sounds maybe illogical. But that's only because the activity of the intuition or spiritual is at a much more faster speed than first of all, much faster speed with the intuition. It works like lightning, whereas the earthly, it's a slower, much slower process. Remember, the earthly is material, while the spiritual is very fine. So, just a general answer about contradictions with scriptures or anywhere within or between different, amongst other scriptures. Weigh and examine everything that you hear. Does it make sense spiritually? Does it make sense? Either there's a deeper explanation, is not so clear from the words, which can answer this situation, or it's actually unreal, and it's fiction, it doesn't actually happen. So yes, some people might be shocked to say, oh, that means there's some errors in scripture, and how can that be when it comes from the Almighty Creator? Well, again, that is what we are told or have adopted, rather than really examined. So everything must be examined, even if it is supposedly the Holy Word from the Almighty. It must be examined. It might be true, it might not be true. And of course, there will be times when you have doubts. But I would advise or suggest, always strive for conviction. Always, you can send a prayer for help and allow yourself this moment of silence, and allow for that prayer to reach the height to the Almighty's throne, and then come back, if it's genuine and of purity, with the answer. But of course at a time scale which may not be what you expect or imagine. But the answer, if it's genuine, would come. And then you will have your conviction, and the doubts will be removed. But all that is based on having the confidence and awareness that there are natural laws. Everything happens within these natural laws. Nothing can happen outside them. And what you sow, you shall reap. You put something out, it will come back. Yes, from within you can sense it very well that that's really real. You might not find physical proof in every single situation that is happening. You won't see it physically that this is how it is, but that you can be confident. Now, as I've said many times in the show, the aim of this show is to introduce you to the Grail Message. And the author of the Grail Message is abushin. And somebody asked a question, which I'm just looking for right now. Why did abushin bring his message to the earth? Thank you for that question. So, why did abushin bring his message to the earth? It is to answer the questions. It's said in the quote that I always read out. It is to answer the questions that we are seeking. He says, I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. What abushin has brought in the Grail Message is knowledge of spiritual life, the natural laws, the mechanism of this creation, whatever the process they're in, and the structure of this creation that we live in, which allows us to see our purpose. And I will not say more because I just invite you to pick up the Grail Message and examine yourself so that you can discover for yourself what is there. And then you will see with your own eyes if that makes sense to you or it doesn't. And it will be your independent view. It has been given, the Grail Message given as a help for humanity, showing them giving them answers to questions of life, and in the end, giving them peace and satisfying their longing for the questions in their life. I'm going to stop there with our questions about this topic tonight, which was spiritual enlightenment. And I'd like to now read from the Grail Message, the foreword of the Grail Message, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him, in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Abushin. So, dear listeners, I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. The topic was spiritual enlightenment. And I'm Saad. I host the show, and today, as you know, Gregory was not able to stay the full time of the show, so he had to go, and I had to fill in for his role as well tonight. So I was answering my own questions. So thank you for being with me and with Gregory. We'll be back next week as usual, Tuesday, UK 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time, with another topic. I encourage you to pick up the Grail Message. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, message, message.com. And we should be back, hopefully, on our regular website, which is blessradio1.com, with another topic. I wish you all a great week. God bless. Take care, everybody. All the best. Have a great week. Good night.